How does the economy affect your business? I'm Dr. Bill Conerly, and let's talk about that. Normal economic fluctuations impact a company's staffing needs, the physical capacity, machinery, offices, IT systems, the inventory that it ought to have, and its capital needs, both long-term capital and working capital. If you always have these resource levels perfect, never too high, never too low, then you don't need to watch this video. Hit the pause button and spend your afternoon playing golf or shooting pool. For the rest of us, though, we sometimes have fluctuations and we don't get our resources quite right. So when I start talking to a company about creating an economic dashboard, the first question I ask is, how cyclical are you? So questions, how cyclical? Look at this blue line, goes up and down and up and down. That's a highly cyclical company, such as one in construction or manufacturing. But other businesses will see a rise and a plateau and a rise and a plateau. It's not so obvious. A lot of the service sectors like that, especially healthcare services. So I ask, how cyclical? But I also ask if a company has different segments, that they describe the cyclicality of different segments could be a little bit different. It's also valuable to know the long run trend. So these lines could have a steep upward slope or a downward slope. The steep upward slope. Advertising on Google and Facebook over the last decade, steep upward slope. Newspaper revenue, steep downward slope. And pretty obviously, if you're on that upturn, long run trend is strong, then the booms will be boomier. If you're on the downward trend, you won't get much benefit from a boom, but you'll get a really bad impact from a bust. So this is important information to know. And then connection to the economy. When I look at a chart of sales, I see the recessions. I know the economy pretty well. And what I encourage you to do is to look at your own history and say, can I tell that there was a recession in 2008 looking at my own numbers? For most of you, yeah. If you can't see the 2008 recession, then you're probably pretty impervious to the business cycle. The next step after understanding cycles and trends is to talk about end users. Somebody actually uses your product or service. It may be the person who buys it or it may not. The company that made this shirt pretty certainly knew it was selling to consumers. But suppose you're selling legal services or ball bearings. You don't see either of these items here. The ball bearings could be sold to a company making washing machines, a consumer product, or business equipment, or aircraft carriers. So you're not quite sure who the end user is. Similarly, on legal services, some services, wills and divorces, are sold to consumers. Others are part of real estate development. Others are involved with government contracts. It's not always easy to dig down and find out who your end users are. I was talking recently to a group of manufacturers of nuts and bolts, and most of them sell their products to wholesalers who then sell them to different factories. And I said, well, what kinds of factories do they get sold to? And the manufacturer says, I don't know, we just sell them to a wholesaler. This is a time for better relationships with your wholesalers and ask to get more detailed information on who the end user is, because these end users correspond to sources of economic data. And if you understand what's going on with the end users of your product, you can better connect the dots between the economy and your business. So end users, the next important information, and then think about geography. For some companies, a national map, whether it's the United States or India, whatever, is important. Other companies should have a global map, or at least a map of an entire continent. And some companies can settle on just a city map. They're very, very local. But keep those things in mind. At this point, you understand your cyclicality, your end users, your geography. It's time to put together your dashboard. And the steps of finding the indicators. Now, different businesses need to look at different indicators. Start by looking at your industry newsletters, the websites and journals that focus on your industry. Look at the articles that talk about the economy and see which indicators they're talking about. That probably reflects your end users. Also scan some of the economic news nationally, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. And you're going to ignore all the talk about policy. You're not in Congress, you're not on the Federal Reserve Board, you don't care about that. What you care about are what economic indicators are being quoted that might be relevant to your particular business. Now you want to find the source of that data. And I've got a tool that's going to be really, really helpful, Fred. Fred is going to become your best friend. Google Fred, economic data, anything like that, and you will get a database that is free and has thousands upon thousands of economic indicators. You can download the data, you can graph it right on their website. Because you'll want to take the indicators that are most important, both nationally and regionally, for your business and put them into, I call it a dashboard. It could be a table. Some folks like tables. I like charts. Actually, I like both tables and charts. Whatever you want, look at that. At first, you're just going to be looking at historic data. In another video, I'm going to talk about how to get a forecast for those end users. But first, look at historical data. And it's amazing how valuable it is just to look backwards for a moment. I had a client come to me and he said, Bill, the economy has been really hard on our sales. Well, I had studied the economic indicators for his end users. I had studied the geography where he did his sales, and I had to say, hey, the economy has done this to your sales, but your sales are down by this much. So this is sophisticated econometrics. Economy, your sales. It was discouraging information to the client, but I said, no, this is really good news. It's good news to know if your sales are worse than the economy indicates, because you cannot really fix the economy, but you can fix a sales and marketing challenge. So in this case, when I said the economy, small effect, your sales down a lot, he knew that he needed to focus on his sales effort. And most of you are good enough managers that once you know where to focus your attention, you can solve your problems. And that's why you want to connect the dots between the economy and your business to know what should be on your to-do list. We'll have more videos on this connection between the economy and your business. I'm Dr. Bill Conerly, and thanks for watching.